Welcome to In Focus on this Sunday, August 17th, 2025. I'm Lori Chung, filling in for Cheryl Wills. Today, we're turning our attention to our state's youth, nearly 2.6 million, getting ready to head back to class.
Because they have their cell phone, they are attached. It is attached to their hands. And for the school districts that have said no more, distraction-free schools, no smartwatch, no earbuds, and no smartphones. They said, you know what you hear in the classrooms now and in hallways and in cafeterias? You hear laughter, you hear human voices, you hear people talking.
That's Governor Kathy Hochul on In Focus last year, and she joins us today to discuss what a distraction-free school would look like 1 year later with the full support of the city schools chancellor.
Now that it is a law,
Yeah.
every single school will be complying with it. In the past, we had our chancellor's regulation, which again, going back to when I was a principal, our campus opted to restrict cell phone use during the school day, and we collected cell phones. So by updating our chancellor's regulation in alignment with the new state law, we are still able to give our principals an opportunity to design a plan that works best for them.
Plus, we speak with a principal who already implemented a phone-free campus. He tells us how it's going so far. And later, a parent of 3 school-aged kids breaks down what this initiative looks like from the student and the family perspective. All of that and so much more happening now on In Focus. Let's begin today's conversation with Governor Kathy Hochul. Governor, so great to have you here on In Focus again. You were here a year ago, almost to the day. You were talking about this vision you had for addressing mental health for the youth in schools. I know this is an important issue to you, not just as governor, but you're a mother and a grandmother.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about what's been accomplished so far. Bring us up to speed on what's happened since then.
Sure, it's been a long journey. And it was important for me to take the time a year to go out and have roundtables and conversations with everyone from the students themselves to their parents, to school superintendent, teachers, principals, and to really just dive into what is happening in our classrooms and in our schools today because of the constant bombardment of messages on children's cell phones. They're not able to put it down. It's in their hands all day long. So a couple things occurred. I learned that teachers are enormously frustrated because they're trying to teach a math class and they're competing with a TikTok dance video, and they know they lose every time.
Right.
So they're not teaching and making connections with students, so I believe our educational outcomes are not what they should be. Also, you have to ask why half of all teenagers are feeling hopeless and some sort of sadness, and beyond that, even depression and some suicidal thoughts. Teenage years are always tough, but we're learning is that with the bombardment of these algorithms, which are sending messages, a lot of them are negative. It takes them to a dark place. But in addition, the peer pressure that goes on all day long. One girl told me as I was sitting in her high school library, she says, I have to keep an eye on my phone because sometimes they mock about my clothes, and sometimes the girls are meeting in the restroom to make plans for Friday, and they're not including me, and I need to know what people are saying about me. And so she says, I can't put the phone down. Because I FOMO and I'll miss out and I won't know. I'd be a social outcast. But she knew it wasn't good for her. So she said to me, you've got to save us from ourselves. You know, can you take this from us? And I realized at that moment, I am the adult, I'm a parent, and these are all my kids as well. And I want to make sure that we start having better outcomes. So on this journey, I learned that we need to do something dramatic, and that's what we're talking about today.
It's such difficult terrain for young people to really navigate, and this is a tool to help them. You have other mental health initiatives that you're working on. Tell me what you're looking at right now.
Right. I mean, I realized as a new governor a few years ago, you know, enough has not been invested in mental health services. I put $1 billion out there to have everything from mental health supports in schools, which we've not needed in previous generations, even in grade school. There's therapists and counselors who are dealing with something they're not accustomed to seeing. Some of it is the outgrowths of the pandemic. But our kids are struggling. And if they can't just have the freedom of a normal childhood and liberated instead of having all this pressure that none of us had as adults. I mean, when we were children, we never had to deal with that. So there's a lot of ways we're hitting it, making sure there's more services and removing the stigma of asking for mental health services. But I want our kids to have healthy minds. And the same time there was an increase in the use of cell phones in schools, that's when the algorithms were being developed and promoted and pushed hard by these social media companies. So we stopped them last year. We said, you can no longer monetize our children's mental health, put a dead end to that, but they're still on the phones all day long. And so I think this is going to be a game changer, what we're doing here.
Well, to that end, there's a phone ban that goes into effect this upcoming school year. How do you hope students will benefit?
I've heard from them themselves. It's not hypothetical. I did a roundtable in Middletown School the other day, and it's a large district in a rural area. I talked to the students themselves. They actually had gone through this a few years earlier. So I wanted to ask them what the experiences were. And they said, there's a tough transition at first, but what each one told me is that they're making friends in person. They're having conversations in real time with the person sitting next to them at lunch. They're engaging. The noises in the halls are back because it's no longer silent as students sitting right next to someone else or walking next to someone else is so distracted by that phone that they're not even developing normal human connections that we expect our kids to develop and make eye contact and have a social side of them, which is being suppressed when they're finding their whole social life and their whole being is in this cell phone and it's not with people around them. And that's a loss for these kids. So I believe that without this, there'll be children that are more fully well-adjusted, and when they leave school and enter the workforce or go to college, they'll just be more normal. They won't be depressed students, young people who've been spending their teenage years in their basement addicted to a phone. Now, I can't help what goes on at home, but I really encourage parents to look at their behavior, because children watch their parents, and what's happening at the dinner table. Are you having conversations with your children, or are you checking your work emails and texts? And that's something we need to watch our own behavior.
It's interesting how much of this, someone my age and older took for granted, or even younger than me. But this distraction-free environment that you're trying to create. There's research that bears out the benefits of this. That kids will have better social relationships, like you mentioned. Their attention spans, knowledge retention. How much do you hope this will bring kids kind of back to basics, like you say, and just focus on being regular kids in school and have that experience that maybe you and I had coming up?
I believe it will. I not only hope it will, I think there's enough documentation from schools that have taken the plunge earlier, who did not wait for this. And the reason I had to step in is that this is hard to do. There's opposition for a school board or a superintendent from people who are not quite sure what this is all about. They don't want to be told what to do. Some parents don't understand as they worry about their children when they go off to school, as I did as a mom. Something happens to my precious baby, I could never live with that. So there's a thought that they need to be connected with their child all day long in school as well. And what I learned from law enforcement, police chiefs and sheriffs and others who said, if there is something going on the school campus or in the building, an active shooter, for example, worst nightmare, the last thing you want is for that child to have their cell phone go off and reveal their location, or for them to start videoing and giving information out there that could be misdirecting law enforcement to where to go. They may not be unintentional, but they cannot be doing this. And they need to be following the trained professional in the front of the classroom, the teacher. They know what they're doing. They've had many, many drills over years to deal with this. And your child is safer if they do not have that phone with them throughout the day. They'll be better off. You're not going to recognize your child after a few months, but help them get through this. And this is an important message. I'm glad we're doing this now. You have to help your children get ready for this. It's like one day you're addicted to cigarettes. You have to have that pack with you all day long, and the next day you can't have it. It's going to be hard for the children. And so parents, start now. Like I used to put my kids to bed earlier as summer was starting to come to an end. Can't stay out till 9 o'clock at night. You're going to bed at 7 o'clock by eventually the night before school. So it wasn't a hard adjustment. Right. Start weaning your kids, get them engaged in other activities. Like our whole initiative, Get Offline, Get Outside, is about promoting the great outdoors, and whether it's opening more swimming pools and clubhouses and sports and just passive recreation, walking through parks and letting kids kick a ball again, hang out with their friends in the playground like they used to. So I think it's going to be enormously powerful. Our workforce will be more well adjusted ultimately, And I do think it's going to give our students a competitive advantage because they'll just be smarter.
Right.
They're absorbing more throughout the day. I'm really excited about this.
Being a kid again is such a novel concept.
Yeah.
And, like you mentioned, it's so hard to put the phone down, even for the parents. It all starts with the example we set.
That's exactly right.
Governor Hochul, thank you so much for coming in and talking this through.
Thank you.
And still to come, we spoke with a student who tells us what she's expecting in class this upcoming school year. Stay with us.
I'm definitely excited because I've never been able to experience life without my phone. So this is definitely going to be something really new for me, and I'm excited to adapt because anything uncomfortable just requires time so we could adapt to the transformation.
Well, thanks for staying with us. Joining us now is Mike Laster, principal of Farnsworth Middle School in Guilderland. Thanks so much for being with here, Mike. You're already ahead of this. Your school already has a comprehensive phone ban policy. As a principal, how happy are you that this will now be a statewide mandate that brings everybody on board?
I'm tremendously happy that the state was able to get that legislation passed. I think it's an important topic for students in our public schools. K-12, given the research and the conversations that have been happening the past few years about cell phone use, I think this is definitely a move in the right direction.
What does this policy look like at your school? How are you actually handling it? Are you collecting the phones? Are you using bins? Each building kind of does this differently. What does it look like where you are?
So we're at the middle level. We serve grades 6, 7, and 8. In the summer of 2024, after doing some discipline analysis and looking at the research, we decided to move in the direction of a distraction-free environment. I worked with our leadership team as well as our teacher leaders to craft some clear and explicit expectations in regards to when and where students could use their cell phone device. We did anticipate some parent concern or complaint. I was very pleased that as we opened up the school year for 24-25, we had tremendous parent support. Not many parents pushed back too much on our expectation of having kids keep their devices out of sight and off unless under the supervision of a teacher.
Do you have the resources to implement the policy? Checking in at this point, how is it going?
It's going great. Last year, we had a significant decrease in disciplinary incidents in regards to cyberbullying, inappropriate photos, inappropriate videos being taken. We had an increase in student interaction. We had, reduction in distractions in class. The overall improvement in student focus and engagement was absolutely tremendous right away. And I credit that to the consistent implementation of our expectation by the adults in our building. At the middle level, it's really important for students to hear the same message from multiple adults in every single space in our school community. So that was one thing we really stressed with our adults, is that developmentally they can't have different expectations if they walk into one classroom versus another classroom. So we really needed to be consistent across the board.
You're laying out so many benefits. What has it done for the culture of the school? Because, when you lay out all of these benefits one after the other, it sounds like it would change just the overall environment that students are walking into when they prepare to learn and absorb information that they're going to need.
Yeah, the climate and the culture last year was considerably more positive than in previous years. As I said, one of the things that we saw a spike in was discipline associated with the use of their cell phone, whether it be videotaping someone without their permission, taking inappropriate photos and then circulating those through social media, which became not only a distraction, but also a violation of our code of conduct. So all of that was eliminated, which was replaced by joy and happiness and laughter and engagement. So I don't think, and as I went through the school year and I met with students and I met with our student leaders, not many of them missed it. We're a one-to-one school anyway, so they have their Chromebook devices with them in class. So by asking them and telling them that the expectation was their phone had to go away, I think it actually provided them with a little bit of break from technology that they enjoyed. Our cafeterias were full of laughter. Kids were playing cards. Kids were joking with one another. Those things didn't happen when they were buried in their phones.
You know, it's so incredible. We're almost out of time here, but really quickly, do you have any advice for other educators, in a word, who are trying to get everyone on board with a policy like this?
Yeah, I think communicating the policy and the expectations clearly and early on to all stakeholders, parents, students, and staff members is critical. Having parent focus groups, providing them the research, providing them the benefits, and then also training staff on that consistent piece. Really reinforcing the why that we're moving in this direction, whether or not you're going to use pouches or other devices or bins or little cubbies. It's still a matter of modifying behavior for students. The last thing I will say is I think you also need to recognize that some of our students have become addicted to having their phones with them 24/7. So there is going to be a grace period where you have to recognize that you have to help students understand that they have to break that habit.
Right.
And that could take a little bit more time than you think.
It's so incredible that you have as much buy-in as you do, given that that is the case. Principal Mike Laster of Farnsworth Middle School, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Time for another break. Here's another look at how students are approaching the new policy this fall. We'll be right back after this.
When I heard about this policy being implemented, I felt a bit nervous. I felt a bit uncomfortable because I'm a very forgetful person and I use my phone a lot in school just to contact my parents. I'm in a numerous amount of clubs, I play sports, and my priorities for when I'm using my phone is usually just texting my parents. So my main thought was, how am I going to contact my parents? I definitely believe that there will be benefits. From what I see in my class is that phones are used to play like games a lot, and it can be a big distraction. And it's kind of hard since we're the generation who grew up on phones. We have the urge to just grab it and like text or play a game. So I do feel like students will be more productive since phones won't be an option to be a distraction.
That was one final note from our students on distraction-free schools. Well, joining us now is Cecily Bean Cullinan. She is a parent of 3 kids in Round Lake, New York. Cecily, thanks so much for taking the time and talking this through with us. You know, you're a parent. You're a parent. What were your initial thoughts when you heard about this school phone ban for your kids?
Yeah, I was happy to hear that would be forthcoming because I've seen the effects of the distraction factor. I mean, actually, and truthfully, I haven't truly seen it because I'm not in the schools every day, in and out with. As a teacher, I feel like the educators and the teachers have really bore the brunt of these phones that have kind of snuck into classrooms. And become a real source of distraction for students. And then it's detrimental to learning for students. So in any case, as a parent, I'm on board. I'm happy that it'll just level the playing field for all the students.
And tell me, how old are your children and how did they feel when they heard about this? Because, you know, for adults, for a lot of us, it's hard for us to put down our phones. How did they feel about that?
Yes. So I have 3 children. My eldest is heading into his junior year in high school. I have a middle child who's a son. My son is heading into his 9th grade as a freshman in high school. And then my youngest, my daughter, will be starting 6th grade, starting middle school this year.
And how did they feel about it? Were they worried about going without their phones for so long throughout the day?
No, not really, actually. I mean, you know, mildly inconvenienced. I think the initial rumors were like, you can't even use it on the bus. And, you know, but from what I understand, it's bell to bell is the idea. So while you're in school, during class, you can't have your phone. And for the most part, that will not be a challenge. On the parenting side, I've really tried to lay the groundwork with my kids that the phone should be away while you're at school. You're there to learn and absorb and educate and socialize. And so I don't think they feel too stressed out about it. Maybe mildly inconvenienced, like what if you have to text? I really stressed with them that they should not be texting me during the day unless they absolutely have to. And in that case, I make sure they know they should check with a teacher or get permission to use their phone and that kind of thing.
Well, you know, that brings me to my next question. You know, there was initially a lot of pushback from parents who were concerned about not being able to reach their kids in case of an emergency, either at home or at the school building. Were you concerned at all when you first heard about it?
I guess I didn't have that concern initially. These are different times we live in with school safety issues that we all know about, but and that's kind of a worst case scenario to imagine. But the school is structured so that there's a front office with a secretary and front office staff and nurses. And I mean, I've definitely received calls from the nurse's office saying, your child is sick. What do you want to do? Or can you come get them? And I mean, that's the structure that's in place to allow for students to communicate with their parents during the school day.
You're trusting in that system, that it's working. You know, so much of this is, you know, rests on the buy-in of the parents. Are the parents in your community, I'm curious, are they all on the same page, or do you find there are camps of people who are for it or others who are a little more apprehensive?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think there are definitely camps. In my immediate community, I live in Round Lake is a small kind of unique village with pretty like-minded parents. And so in that sense, many of us are comfortable and on board with not having phones be so part of our lives. I do want to say, full transparency, I am a parent with 3 kids, and you know, they are on phones and they do have iPads, and so I don't want it to come across that I am doing this perfectly, but it's a tricky battle. I do hear of people who aren't a fan of their kid not being able to access their phone during the school day, and you know, I really feel like that puts so much work on teachers that they should not have to deal with.
Yeah, you know, it'll be interesting to see how parents buy into this as these policies become, you know, more commonplace. Cecily Bean Cullinan,
Yes.
thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Thank you for watching this special edition of In Focus. I'm Lori Chung. We appreciate you spending your Sunday with us.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. To keep up with important issues impacting our communities and hear more conversations with the people who are shaping the future, subscribe to our channel. You can also download our app or find Spectrum News on your TV for balanced, in-depth political coverage and more. We'll see you there.